you sent me an email yesterday, and under your signature, you have about 8 company logos.
I told you.
I want to dive into that. Tell me though first about the first one, because that's something that we haven't gotten to dive into yet. Really, that first business.
Oh, the first business,
the very first one, childhood business.
Okay, so Paintball Extreme. Paintball Extreme. It was. Let me tell you how it started. So like I told you, I didn't come from a very wealthy background. We weren't dirt poor, but we were lower to middle class. My parents worked every day. And there was a time where I lived with my grandmother. She was dirt poor. Okay, so, but we were out in the country, but our friend group had gotten into paintball. Yeah. Now, we didn't have money to go get paintball guns, so we started with slingshots, and we would go to Walmart and get the paintball and shoot each other with slingshots and paintballs. Yes, that's how it started.
I got to try that.
So as the group grew, paintball became more interesting, and we became more involved with it. And so I looked at this opportunity and was like, you know what? I'm going to buy some paintball guns and then rent them out. And so we had acreage behind our house, and I built the forts and all, and so we started playing as a group. I accumulated some guns, and then I needed some money to buy the large set of guns. And so I went out to my mom. I'm like, Mom, we need $1,500. We're going to buy 10 paintball guns and rent these out, And so she goes to her work. Her work does a loan to me. Yes, and I'm 14 years old. And they loaned me $1,500. I'll buy the paintball guns. Got to pay them back. And so the business starts there. It was just a friend group. Once I got the 10 guns, it started to grow. The guys were coming every Saturday. Then we started printing flyers up, putting them, in the Walmart parking lot on things. The local firemen started coming. The police crews came. And it just grew. And so for 2 years, it ran there on our property until the city found out I was running a business. And then, so funny story, I had to go so we were zoned residential, and obviously we needed to be zoned commercial to run a business. So here I am. Maybe it was about a year and a half. I was 15 years old. My mom drives me to the city meeting in front of the council to get rezoned in front of the zoning committee. I'll never forget, Betty Fine Collins was there, and I think she was like the mayor or the commissioner or whatever she was. And I had this whole presentation. So I go up in front, and we're trying to pursue rezoning this property. And so I go up in front of the group, and I have this presentation, this thing written out, and I'm talking to them, and I'm explaining how we want to rezone, but the concern was that the paintballs would affect the cows over in the field, next to the property. And so I'm explaining that the paintballs are biodegradable. They're, with water. And matter of fact, they're safe to eat. And I get a handful of paintballs and I put them in my mouth and I chew them up.
The original Tide Pod. Huh?
Yeah, the paintball challenge right there in front of the people, the group. And they're like, what is this kid doing? And I'm like, it's safe. It's fine. Well, they did not rezone me. You think the dramatic effect of eating the paintballs would have done the deal, sealed the deal. And funny story is Betty Fine Collins was a family friend, and she was the one that denied it. And so I'll never forget this. I hope she sees this. I don't know if she's alive or not, but maybe some family of hers see it. But they were family friends, and they denied it. So at this point, the proof of concept was there. We had accumulated 30 or 40 guns, the CO2 cartridges, all the masks. I was paying my friends as referees to come referee the games. I mean, it was a full-on deal. So we went and looked for property outside of that. And so at 16, I signed a lease illegally, because you're not supposed to be 18 to sign a contract, to lease what was called Tapawingo Park. And it was a dilapidated, rundown old swimming was like swimming hole, but it was where the community used to come, and we rented that. And I ran that business for a few years there until kind of I got tired of it and ended up closing down. So that was the first business, Paintball Extreme.
So most people at 14 are interested in maybe playing paintball, but they don't turn it into an actual business. So do you think that, what is it in your brain that said, I need to make this a business? Was it just natural, or what happened?
Yeah, it was natural. Like to me, I think, so I like to lead. I like to do things that others don't. I like the challenge of it. I always saw opportunity. So like if we were doing something, like four of us were hiding behind trees shooting with slingshots. I'm like, there's got to be a better way to do this, And so we go out and we build the forts, and now we're doing that in the forts. I'm like, man, other people would probably want to do this. And then I'm like, how would we do that? And so like for me, it's like thinking through the problem is what really kind of gets me going. Yeah. And so like I'm never okay with just staying right there in the slingshot mode.
Yeah.
And
how do we make it better? How do we get to the next level?
And
solve another problem?
We'll probably say this 100 times, but it had nothing to do with the money.
Yeah.
Like the money it was never even really a thought to me. Like the money side of it, obviously we needed the money to pay to get more guns, but that was just like building the empire, building the thing I wanted. The money was just a necessary evil to get me there. Like I had to have the money to keep going, but I really just wanted to run the business. I really just wanted to solve the problems,
So when people say that you're born a leader, you're born an entrepreneur, in that case for you, it seems to be the case. Is that the only path though? Like, do you think that other people that maybe don't have that natural inclination, can they force it or learn it?
Oh, that's a good question. Most likely, yeah. I think there's all kind of different entrepreneurs. I think some are great salesmen, that maybe don't run the business very well, but they're great salesmen, and they see the opportunity on the financial side, and they're like, "Hey, I wasn't born to fill out to update my books and look at the P&Ls and balance sheets, but I was born to buy something for $2 and sell it for $4."
Sure.
And so that entrepreneurial style could be born. Could it be taught? Sure. Are you going to make it? I don't know.
Tougher,
yeah. 4 years in college and business school, and you go out and you're like, hey, I want to start this business. The moment page 36 doesn't exist and you have to figure it out, and figure it out looks like reach down deep inside your gut and pull something out that you didn't know you had.
Yeah.
That's when it's going to get real. And if you don't have that desire to be there, that's where I think that taught entrepreneurs would struggle.
Sure.
I'm not saying you can't, and I'm sure that there's plenty. There's been many that have, but I see that would be a problem.
It's like the unwillingness to give up. Like
yes,
you at 15 getting shut down. Yeah. You could have just taken it on the chin, been done with it, but you went before city council. You looked for different property. You were signing leases at 16.
Literally, yeah.
So it's that. I think that's what it is, because no schooling coming from somebody with degrees that honestly are mostly irrelevant.
Sure, yeah.
That none of that prepares you for what you're actually going to face. You get kicked in the teeth day after day after day, yet you keep doing it.
Yeah.
So you at 14, 15 were doing it naturally. It's not like your family was there telling you this is how you run a business.
No. And my mom's very much like me. She's like the ultimate optimist.
Yeah.
My mom was a cheerleader. She's just like, she's my biggest fan outside of my wife. My wife always gets on me when I say that. So my wife is absolutely my biggest fan too. But my mom was the OG original Dustin Jackson fan. And anything I wanted to do, she was there. Like she was there cheering me on. She didn't have an open checkbook. She didn't have business experience. She had a little bit of a financial background in accounting and all, but she had that willingness to try anything and willingness to say, yeah, let's do it. Oh. And so some of that comes from her.
Yeah.
My granddad built houses and all for the last 40 years. So he had some entrepreneurship in him. And my dad is a natural entrepreneur, but he's more of the social sales side. So it's a blend of that. But we didn't have like a family business to get groomed under. It was more like this support like, you're crazy, Dustin, but we're here if you need us. Like that kind of
your mom went to her job to get a loan you to go buy.
She did
your first set of paintball guns.
Yeah.
Wild.
It's funny, and I still have the contract. You saw the business license that I have, so behind that is the contract that I signed for Tapawingo and stuff. Yeah. And I kept some of that. So I wish I would have kept
scanned copies of all that.
Yeah, I have the originals.
Can you scan them? I'd love to see it.
Yeah. I can shoot them over.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah. Sure.
So at 14, at 15, because this is so interesting because most people don't find I think there's a study saying that most entrepreneurs don't start their first business until their 40s.
Yeah.
And so you in your teenage years, and it's not like it was easy because you're, shut down, having to restart all that. If you can remember your 15-year-old mind, what was going on in your mind at 15 to say, we'll just figure out another way?
Yeah. It was like a burning desire. So for me, when I see a problem or I see a closed door, it's not an option of whether I'm going to try it or not. Mm-hmm. So it's not like, okay, well, I could quit. I guess the quit it's never a consideration.
Sure.
So like that I don't even understand that concept of, well, they said I can't do it, so now I stop. That's like, if they said I can't do it here, well, I'll do it there. Like that's always the case for me.
You have to be willing to buck the rules too a bit.
Yeah. Rules are meant to be broken. And I am the infamous rule breaker. Yeah. Not in the illegal fashion, but like I really push the envelope. And I think that, we all set rules, but we all know that there's a line that you got to dance around to get things done,
Yeah.
So, but yeah, like the quit. And I say that, like, there's been a lot of things I should have quit.
Sure.
So I want to be clear, like, this isn't like, I just never quit and then the opportunity works out. Sometimes I never quit and I'll hold that sinking ship all the way to the bottom,
Wow.
So
you got an example of one of those?
Oh, man. Okay. So I want to be careful how I say this because it actually turned out to be a really good opportunity in the end.
Okay.
But when I built software for the detailing industry, I went into it with a mindset. So I'll kind of frame this here. I started a detailing business, owner, operator, myself washing cars and boats. It was a big opportunity in our area that nobody was doing. I knew that I wasn't going to wash cars forever. I knew that I was going to build a team to do this. Okay. So I trained a few people up and the business grew as expected. And as it grew, we realized that we had issues with pricing and booking online, and people were calling all the time asking when their stuff would be done. It's just typical business problems. Sure. And so I thought, well, we need a software to solve this problem. We need a software where people can book online, where they can get consistent pricing, where they can get updated through messages. So I built the software. Built the software for myself, for my business. I had no intentions of carrying it to market, no intentions to sell it to anyone. But it did so well for our business. It was like shooting our business out of a cannon, you know? And I'm like, man, how can I not take this to market? How can I not get this to other detailers? And so here we go, 2016. We are gung-ho. I got with my developer. We rebuilt it, got it ready to take to market. And we did. And in 2016, I go to Mobile Tech Expo down in Orlando, Florida, to present this new software. All right. And at that event, they asked me to speak at it. And so I was in a room with about, I'd say probably 100 or so people. And I proposed the question. I said, okay, who in here is using software to run their business? And like 4 people out of 100 raised their hand. And I'm like, that sounds good to someone with software to sell. The problem with selling software is people don't know that they need it most of the times. Yeah. They're like, my pen and paper works fine. I can write this down. I can call these people. I can send them a text. I don't need a machine to do it for me. So I knew when I saw that, we had to not only sell software, but change an industry's mindset. And so I was on a mission then. And I spoke to anybody, any crowd, any group, any training that would have me there to tell them about business and why they needed this software to change their business. Now, I'll tell you why it was a mistake. That's expensive. Software development, it was very expensive pre-AI.
Yep.
Very expensive. And I had another software company in the past, but we won't discuss that one in this. But this one, like we were at the peak of development wages. So I had about $100,000 I set aside that I was going to use as a budget to get this thing to market and for it to start selling. And I was about $1 million deep before we started really getting some revenue. So when I tell you I'll hold on one to one, and I ain't saying I had $1 million sitting there ready to put into it. I'm saying I scratched, clawed, and drug my way to get to that. And so now it was a hard fight. It was a hard fight for 9 years selling that software. And we built it up. We got it going. Got it to where it was breaking even, and breaking even was just like heaven sent to us, you know? And then, I didn't know, I kind of had reached a point where it was breaking even, but it really didn't have a lot. I didn't have any more money to put into it. And it needed some improvements and stuff. And I was approached from another larger company for buyout. Unexpectedly, out of the blue, just left a big event called SEMA in Las Vegas. And I was on the plane, man, you got to hear this story. So I was out there for 9 days in Las Vegas, and that sounds fun to everybody else, but I don't drink. And so like this was 9 trade show days of setup, trade show, tear down. So it's busy. Okay. I get on the plane, get my headset on, and we're taking off. And I lean back, and for the first time ever, my headphones read a text to me. It's the weirdest thing ever. I can't explain it because they've never done it since then. They've never done it before that. I lean back and it says, text from, and no, it didn't say from who. It just says, you have a new text, and it reads out. And it says, hey, it was great seeing you at SEMA. Hate we didn't see you off. If you ever get ready to sell Detail Bookie, let us know. That was the name of the software. I stood straight up on the plane. I look at my phone. I'm like, Chelsea, look at this. And before I could respond, thankfully, the service goes out because now we're on a plane, and I have no service. And I'm like, I got to fly the next 5 hours or 4 hours or whatever it is and think about this response. Because immediately I'm like, it's sold, whatever. And so anyways, we land. And of course, then it's like the business mindset's in, okay, hang on, you got to play this. Well, I hadn't really considered it, and I don't know. Yep. But we went back and forth. So anyways, I ended up selling the software in January of 2025. It was the best thing that ever happened to the software. It was a great deal for both the new buyer and myself. Sure. They took really good care of me, and they kept the team on, which was a stipulation that I really wanted to see happen. Yeah. And I didn't know if they were buying the software just for the customer base and going to can the software, but they didn't. Wow. They love it. They love the code. They kept the development team on and it's done good. So, but there was 9 years of not knowing that was going to happen. Sure. There was 9 years of every single day wake up and go, how do we make it one more day? Mm-hmm. If we can survive today. And so that's when you say, is there any that was a tough one.
So how do you decide when to cut something loose? Because in that 9 year period, you're $1 million in. Yeah. I'm sure that there was day after day where you just thought, is it time to put this thing down? There was a million of those thoughts every time.
So
why did you keep doing it?
Because I'm a terrible quitter. Okay. I really am. And I had this conversation with our marketing team. Actually, it was the marketing and operations team about another company that I own. It's a magazine company. And it was in January of this year. And I said, look, we've got to make a decision on this magazine company. Are we going to stay in it, or are we going to let it go? And, and nobody would say anything. And I said, you know what? I've surrounded myself with terrible quitters. I'm like, I need someone to speak up.
You need somebody that's willing to throw in the towel.
Yeah. And, and nobody would do it. And here we are. So like, to answer that question, I'm terrible at it. And so, I don't have that answer.
But if you wouldn't have kept going that 9 years, that buyout wouldn't have come.
It wouldn't have come.
And so that's I think the hard part that so many people face is they're invested, they're pouring into it, whatever it may be, whether it's whatever business or idea that they have. Mm-hmm. And you always have that fear that success is right on the other side of me quitting.
Yep.
And so that's got to be the hardest decision, is when to actually put something down versus go another day. So have you learned more what to look for? When is it worth putting it away and saying, you know what, we've had a run, it's no longer serving me, or I believe in it so much, I've got to go another day?
Yeah, I have learned a lot. And you know, I think that learning to adapt, like kind of pivot slightly, like maybe this concept that you had originally isn't working out, but there's something, you've already got the infrastructure that got this thing going. Mm-hmm. And so maybe there's more opportunity in some other little shift. And all. So we've done that a lot. Like we've started as one thing and ended as another, you know? And also I think that, you know, I've learned a lot through holding on to the sinking ships. And you know, again, I mentioned I'm a terrible salesperson. So quitting to me just like looks like you just walk away. My dad's like, we should sell this. And I'm like, well, who wants to buy this? Like, you know, like who has a team ready for this? And so like, I think that's a part of it that I don't quite understand is the selling aspect. So I just hang on to it. I'll make adjustments, make a move, and see where it lands.
But in your adult life too, a lot of other businesses have been born along the way. You've got Easy and Outfitters, you've got storage. So let's kind of rapid fire through some of those. Sure. And what are some of the things that have been born from nothing, out of an idea, that you have been able to build up?
Oh, the Easy and Storage is probably the easiest. And look, so in 2014 or 2012 maybe, I started Easy and Storage, and it was a 1/2 acre lot, small. I had a boat and a camper there, and this is how simple it was. By the way, I did not know that there was going to be a storage boom during, you know, at this. And this was just luck, happenstance, got it right. I had a 1/2 acre lot. I had my boat and camper there. I drove past it one day. I said, if I would store my stuff here, I bet other people would store theirs too. Oh. Put a fence around it, made me a little office there. I had a home office at the time. And I wanted to get out of my house. That was probably more why I did it than actual storage. Was I needed an office, and I sold another business that I owned. Yeah, so I'm terrible at sales, but I have sold a few of them. And so it kind of led me to a home office. I wanted to get out of the home office. So I built this, or renovated this little section, this little building that I had that was on this 1/2 acre lot. And we kind of put a sign, open, you know, storage, Easy and Storage. And the phone started ringing. I like to tell it like this. The phone started ringing back in 2012, and it hasn't stopped yet for storage.
People always store their junk.
Man,
we can't throw things away.
It would just blow your mind.
Yeah.
It would blow your mind. And so from that 1/2 acre lot, I'll tell you a little story of adversity. I had a 1/2 acre lot. There was another acre behind me. I had filled this lot up. My phones were ringing. I had a waiting list. And so I was going to buy the 1 acre behind me. It's like $50,000, not a big purchase, but you know, there it was. And so the city, it was zoned residential. Here we go again. And I went right down to the city to get it rezoned. I go to the planning commission, and they have a pre-meeting, and it's with the planning commission people and the lead guy there. And, you know, we're all talking. They say, yeah, that's not going to be a problem. We're going to, you know, this will be simple. We'll get this thing done. Well, we go out into the main hall, and they turn it down. Like they turn it down. They totally go against what we said in the pre-meeting. And it made me mad. Like I was mad. I mean, I said some things. And so I left there. And in that time, I had been driving past the 6 acres that was like right across the street. It was old, dilapidated. Here we go again. Ford Lumber property on Shelton Beach Road in Saraland. And I would drive by there, and I would back in because I had Easy and Storage on the back of my truck at the time. And I would back in, and I would just sit there and look at that property and go, man, this is it. You know, if I could ever get the opportunity to buy this piece of property, this would be it. So when they denied me, I drove straight to that property, and there was an old fallen over real estate sign. I got the number off of it. I call them. And I say, hey, I'm sitting in front of your property. I'm interested in buying it. And they say, man, you know, we don't have that property listed anymore. This is a real estate agent. And by the way, my family's in real estate. And so this just don't happen. Okay. We're not listing the property anymore, but Miss Ford, the owner, she just acquired it in a divorce recently and she's ready to sell it. Here's her number. And I'm like, okay. And I don't think they took me serious, maybe, So I call her up and she's like, make me an offer. And so I made an offer that, cash right now kind of deal. And I, didn't have the cash right now kind of deal. And she said, I'll call you back. And I'm like scrambling going, okay, well, I might've just bought this property on a hope, and it worked out. We ended up coming to a deal, ended up working it out. And I bought the property. And so we moved from that 1/2 acre lot to the 6 acres of boat and RV storage. And it was an old lumber company. So it had all these open face racks. Wow. And so we cut the racks out and those made for closed bay storage. And so Easy in Storage came from that. And that's one of those ones that was really, and of course storage now has boomed. I mean, you see the storage everywhere. And it's because it's a really good business model. It takes little overhead at all, except for the land itself. One person can run 3 or 4 or 5 storage properties. Pretty easy to run. So Easy in Storage is that. Then from that, Easy in Detail, we had boats on the lot. We wanted to clean them up. I was thinking my original business concept was like a VIP storage where they could store their boat. They get ready to use it. They call us up. We clean it up. They go use it. They bring it back. We clean it out, flush it out, and park it. Like that was my original. So I'm like, we'll just do this, And come to find out, people that store their stuff don't really want you to mess with it. They just want to come pick it up and leave, But everybody else wanted their stuff detailed. So Easy in Detail was born from that. Easy in Outfitters, the retail stores, came from when I bought the 6 acres. There was a 6,000 square foot building right in the middle of it. It actually started, I was going to, so I had to do something with this huge building right in the middle of this property. And so I thought, okay, we'll do bait, tackle, and marine supplies because I had all these boats, hundreds of boats stored on my lot that were going and coming. So I'm like, surely they fish, they want bait. Set it up. Bait was a flop. Had 2 bait stores. That was a flop. But what I realized in the corner of the bait store was some hats and shirts. And those hats and shirts sold really well. And so from that, I said, get the bait and the tackle and all the anchors and all that stuff out of here and let's fill this baby up with hats and T-shirts. And we did. And so Easy in Outfitters was born.
I want to pause you because it is an interesting connection. You've done it a few times now. You're trying to acquire more land. You get rejected. And immediately you just say, I'm going to go find it somewhere else.
Exactly. Yeah.
So in your mind, were you making any connections at that time to be like, hey, I've done this before? Or was it just like hardwired, natural?
Yeah.
I'm going to go to the 6 acres and buy it.
Yeah. And what's funny is like, I'm not a great negotiator. I'm not a great buyer, seller, negotiator, or anything like that. I just don't take no very well.
Yeah.
And so it's like when I get told no, it's like an immediate pivot to what are we going to do next?
So you're telling no is a certain way to get you to do it.
It's 100% way to yeah. And everybody knows that.
Yep.
Everybody knows that in our meetings and our staff meet, like they already know especially if a new person comes in and, and I'm proposing, because usually what I'll do is I'll set up the idea, like, here's what we want to do. Does anybody got any things, and like, they already know if anybody says, no, we're not going to do it this way. We're like, that's 100% the way we're going to do it. So everybody just kind of gives their input and all that. And then the new person says no. And everybody's like, oh gosh, here we go. Yep.
So the ideas have all really, it seems like for the most part, with some exceptions, maybe they've all built on each other. So you've got Easy in Storage, and then that naturally flowed into, well, people want their stuff detailed. And then that naturally flowed into, well, we've got this space. People want to buy stuff.
Yeah.
So I think we're tempted as entrepreneurs a lot of times we're manic about starting new things that are unrelated.
Yeah.
I think the lesson in that though is that you had a natural flow between them and one business really did feed another.
Yeah.
It wasn't like you were saying, okay, I'm going to go start this other thing that's completely unrelated here to take all my time and attention.
Yeah. And matter of fact, I don't like to do that. So as much as I like a lot going on, like for something to be completely out of the realm of what I'm focused on, I can't focus on that. So it really has to be tucked within this thing.
Sure.
As I say them out loud, though, it kind of does spread out a little bit. But we have ice machines now, Easy and Ice, and we have ice machines that stemmed from the storage. We own IGO Coatings now, which was, the products that we used in detailing. We ended up buying out IGO Coatings, and so now we sell those products all over the U.S. and surrounding countries, and so that stemmed from the detail side of things, and then of course Easy Inside, which is inside storage, it stemmed from. So they all do kind of feed each other.
When you have a marketing company that started out as your internal marketing company that grew out from that, right?
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, so one of the things that that drives me. And the reason we've grown like we have is not because I have this, never-ending urge to grow it or to gain more. It really has to do with the team.
Yeah.
The reason that the marketing company was spun off was because the team was capped, and I never liked the feeling of like, we've reached our maximum potential for the team in pay and opportunity and the things that they do. And so I told Madison, was our director at the time, I said, Madison, we need to start our company so we can work for other people so we can grow. And people like Chris and Brooke and, all the ones that were there at that time, but we have more opportunity because we can only do so much marketing for detail and storage and retail. Yep. And at that time, that's what it was. And we wanted to we wanted to grow the team. So we started Bayshore Strategies, which then started marketing for other companies, started shooting for other companies, and that's grown. And that's really been Easy and Outfitters. It would have just been a one-store location. But my buyer, Rachel, which is like a sister to me, was moving to Silas. We are in Saraland, so way far away. And I knew it wouldn't be long before she wasn't driving back and forth to work every day for an hour and a half commute. So, or 2 hours, however long it is. So I found a building up in Thomasville and said, okay, let's go get that building up and you run that store, keep buying for both. And so a lot of the businesses came from the opportunity to grow the team more than the opportunity to grow our finances or our assets or things like that. Now that's a byproduct and it's happened, but it really wasn't the case.
So you invest in the people, grow the people, and then the business growth comes after the investment in the people.
That's exactly right.
So with the people side of it, because unlike numbers, numbers are very 1 and 0.
Yes.
People are not very 1 and 0. So when it comes to developing people, developing the team, where did you pick those things up, learn those? Were those natural, or is that a skill set that you had to develop over time?
That's a great question because, so it must have been something that I've, kind of learned over time because I'm not political. I'm not creative. I'm not good at, these situational, who does what, who's friends with who. I am 1 and 0. Okay. I am numbers by default. But what I like to do is cast a vision to the team. Here's what we're going to do. And this is how you affect that. And then I kind of let them dictate how we get there. So I'll say, here's what we're going to do, but here's what I need you to do. And you can either grow within this, or this opportunity and this additional workload may not be right for you. And then you go on. And we have really grown a lot of people and changed their lives, whether we were just a stepping stone and they learned a lot and they moved on, or they've stayed and they've grown and made careers out of working for one of the companies. Both have happened. I'm equally as happy at both. I mean, I love when people stay, but I love to see people go and further their career based on the things that they learned while they were with us. Yeah. I run our business as very transparent. We talk about numbers. We talk about profitability. They understand profitability. They understand when we're doing good and they understand when we're not. Because that allows me, like I said, I'm not political. I can't play that game very well. So if I tell you everything, then I don't have to worry about who I told what to at night. I can sleep good and go, no, I was transparent about it. This is when it was great. And I always use the term, we're never fueling my yacht. I don't have a yacht, so we're not fueling it, So, the money comes in and it gets distributed.
Sure. Yeah. And that, I think a lot of people can see the businesses. They see, okay, the paintball field, the storage, bread, the detailing, bread, the store, bread, the marketing. They see the highlight reel, but they don't understand how hard it is.
Yeah.
And we as entrepreneurs, you are very good at just having this resolve of just not letting it show. But that can be hard when other people are walking through that and experiencing the hard.
Sure.
To know that other people are going through this too. So what does that look like in your career of serial entrepreneurship? What does that hard look like?
It's hard. So we spend our whole lives trying to cover this stuff up. We spend our whole lives trying to paint this picture to our customer base and to our team that here's the vision, here's what we're doing. And behind closed doors, that's where the hard part exists. When you're like, man, is everything that I'm saying actually going to happen? Or is this really going to become, and it's a lonely, and it don't matter. And I have the best wife in the world, and she is side by side with me, but it's still a lonely place at times. It's hard. It is hard because you don't know, and there is no page 36 to open up and go, here's what you do. Here's step 9. Yeah. It's like every day you wake up and you go, what fire is going to happen today? What am I going to put out? How am I, there's a lot of times it's how am I going to survive the day? Am I going to make enough sales to pay the bills? Am I going to make enough sales to pay payroll? And entrepreneurs know that if you're watching, if they're listening to this or watching this, and you're in that, and you're in, that feeling of, I don't know, maybe we'll make enough, maybe we won't. And so that's the part that nobody really gets. Yep. And man, they're so quick to overnight success you, and you just got it made, and they drive past that pretty property and they're like, Dustin just bought this property, and they do it, and I've heard it, and I'm like, you have no idea. Yeah. The laying in the fetal position in the living room and going, yeah, I don't know how we're going to get it, but come sunrise, we're going to have to figure it out. Yeah. That's the reality.
Yeah. You can't have any quit, and
it can't even be a thought.
Yeah. You can't, I say it probably too much, is there can't be a plan B.
Right.
Because the minute you give yourself an out, you've already quit.
Yes.
And so you can only say, well, there's only one direction, and that's forward. What inspired me to start this whole series of conversations was early on in building the agency, I would lay in bed at night saying, I have no idea what I'm doing. Nothing prepared me for this. I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow. My phone isn't ringing itself. I've got to make every bit of business happen. And I would scroll on social media and see all these guys looking like they've got it figured out. All these gurus and all these business leaders telling you how they scaled to $1 million and how their business is at $10 million and you just got to keep going. And I'm laying in bed saying, I don't know if I can do tomorrow, but I don't know, I'm not going to not do it.
Sure.
And so as soon as I realized though, we're all up at 3 a.m. It wasn't just me.
Right.
And the reality is that we are all walking through the same struggle of none of us really know fully what we're doing. There's no clear roadmap. We just keep going. And as soon as I found that out, that there could be a 3 a.m. founders club.
Right.
That's what inspired me to say, you know what? I want to be whatever voice is possible to tell somebody else, no, what you're experiencing is actually real.
Yeah.
So how do you share that because I tell people too that it doesn't matter if you have nothing on your books for the week or you are as busy and you cannot see straight, you are always the most successful you've ever been.
Right.
And business is great.
Yeah.
So how do we balance, you think, and how do you share that with that candor and transparency of this is really hard to everything is going according to plan?
Well, it's real simple that the reward is not the finish line, you know? And so like, if you cast the vision where success, we're going to get to that, then you're like, it's kind of like this never ending race. So one thing I do a lot of races. I've done Ironman. There are races that are like the one more mile or the last mile where it's an endless race and you just run and run and run and run. And I'm like, that's like business. Okay. There is no finish line.
Right.
You know, I don't know that there is. And so if you are looking for the finish line, it's a lonely, like that's so hard to keep going. But if you say, okay, the fun, the reward is in the work that it's going to take to get to some point, then I think you embrace the suck. You know, I think so. There's a book or a saying or something, and that's 100% it. You know, and so do your team members want to hear that? Probably not. Right. You know, so we have to portray it in a way that's like, you know, goals. We use a lot of goals in our businesses for whether it's, you know, awards or financial or whatever. So it kind of shortens up that sprint, I guess. But, you know, in my mind, the reward isn't like, okay, I'll be 65 and sitting in a rocking chair and have 100 million in the bank and I don't have nothing to do. Like that to me doesn't seem like the end. Right. Like reward to me is like, hey, we get to do this every day and know the bills are paid. You know, like that's the reward for me. Yeah.
Well, you know, when you have $1, $5 is the goal.
Yeah.
And then you get to $5 and you realize, oh, this doesn't mean what I thought it would. You get to $10, you know, and that's the other thing that I've seen and I've heard from a lot of people is that if you ever set a goal of a financial place, or if I win this client, if I do this project, if I achieve this, as soon as you get there, suddenly, and it's not that you don't want to celebrate it, but suddenly that thing that you were striving for feels almost empty and like a step. You thought it was the top of the stairs, but you get there and you're like, oh, that was just another step on the way. And that was really a transforming thing for me because I was always looking at that next project or that next thing saying, once I get that, I'm actually going to be, you know, happy. But then you get it and then you realize, wait, I just brought my own self with me. And so it shifts your mindset to say, it can't be about achieving that thing. It has to be, like you said, it's in the journey.
Yeah, it is. It is. You know, one thing I mentioned Ironman, so I'll talk about it. The training leading up to Ironman was intense, long days. And you know, you really become someone different through that. When you cross the finish line, it's almost anticlimactic. It's like you almost get sad because it's over. And yeah, I think in business, when you have goals like that and you get to that point, well, what's next? And there's a lot of people that go finish Ironman and then they are finish these big goals, let's say it's fitness, and then you just fall off the wagon completely, you know, and you know, I've did this thing and now it's over. But really it's, you know, you got to love who you become in the middle and that process of becoming that. And so in business, like you got to love solving the problems. You got to love being there every day. You got to love creating the process. You got to love building the team. You got to love serving the customers. You got to love dealing with the unhappy customers. And if you don't, and you're just saying, well, whenever I get to $1 million in the bank, that's where happiness lies. Just like you said, you get there and you realize, well, it's not what it seemed to be. And everything that from A to B was the good part, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. The what you're working toward has to be more important than any particular goal along the way.
Yeah.
You know, so we've talked about a lot of the successful businesses. You shared one with me yesterday where you might have been a little bit too early to the party. And I think that story, right, in all of this is really interesting because it's such a great idea, but maybe the timing wasn't right. So let's dive into that one a bit.
Kicking coolers.
Yeah.
Oh, kicking coolers, man. Man, this was a miss. Kicking coolers. So, you know, anybody that's listening to this, you may even be listening to this on a turtle box. Okay. A turtle box is a stereo that's waterproof, that's indestructible. We sell them in all of the Easy and Outfitter stores, and we sell them by the groves, right? They're wildly popular. They're a great piece of equipment, a great stereo. If we rewind from 2024, when they kind of hit the market really strong, to back in 2008, there was a company called Kickin' Coolers that I happened to own. And Kickin' Cooler looks a lot like Turtle Box. It was a small igloo cooler. We called it, well, so we had a few different ones, but the one that looked just like Turtle Box was a small igloo cooler about this size, one speaker on the front. Open it up, and that was back in the day where we still had car stereos, and the car stereo was slid down in it, and we had a charger and a battery and even an auxiliary wire that ran up so you could plug your iPod up to it, it was fancy.
Big time, man.
Antenna off the side because everybody listened to FM radio still. And so I sold these these Kickin' Coolers, and all around the Southeast, I'd go to events and I sold hundreds of them, maybe even thousands. I don't know how many Kickin' Coolers actually were out there. The bottleneck was I was really the only one that could build the Kickin' Cooler. Like I was back in my shop and doing that. And the parts were clunky. It was, you got to imagine, it's a car stereo, it's a battery, it's a charger, it's a plug, it's a antenna, and it's these parts and stuff. And then other people, because they could see the internal construction, go, I could build this, And so the business kind of died on the tree. Like it was great. It was great for a time. I did some really cool big builds for like Interstate Batteries and some other big companies where we built big igloo coolers, But I let it go. I let it die. I didn't continue on. I didn't do what I have done in other businesses and adapt. I just said, well, other people can build them now. I've kind of paved the way and let it go. And you're looking at Turtle Box's success now going, that's where that idea came from. Not from Kickin' Cooler, because there were they call them like, there was like swamp coolers or whatever, but there was other people doing similar things. And I think Turtle Box just looked at it and said, hey, how can we make this even better? They did what a good company should do. Look at the way somebody solved a problem and just solve it a little bit better. And had I stuck with that path, I think that it would have been a lot different. But you never know. Hindsight's 20/20.
Yeah. And it's also, it's the idea meets the timing, because the advancements in battery technology and Bluetooth technology and just everything shrinking down to the point where, people give Apple a hard time because they're always late to the party.
Sure.
But by the time they do it, it's actually works, Yeah. So in that, because I noticed in all of this, we didn't even talk about that one early on, because what's interesting to me though is that was one where you had to make the decision of, I'm gonna set this one away. That's not how you're naturally wired. So how did that decision come to be?
It's almost like I blacked it out. Like I don't know. And there was another conversation. Oh, the paintball, and I don't even remember how I quit. Like it's almost like I've kind of erased that from my mind. So I was trying to think, how did I end up out of Kickin' Coolers? And whether I just stopped making them or just kind of informally just kind of let it tail off, probably. I don't remember there's this definitive today I'm not building anymore. Today I quit. I think I probably just slowed down. Maybe I didn't do any more events and I just kind of slowed out of it. Again, I didn't sell the business like I probably could have or should have. Same way with the paintball field. I just kind of went on to the next thing. I think that's probably it, is just I moved on. Yeah. I kind of let it live there or die there and carried on. And it's funny because you've asked that. I don't ever really think about that. The ones that didn't make it, how did I leave and how did I quit? And I think probably just let them tail off and die.
Yeah. So you go from Kickin' Coolers and now you're selling turtle boxes. The first shipment of turtle boxes that came in, how did that feel?
Oh, bittersweet. Look, I knew we were going to make some money on them, so I wasn't upset about it. I knew it was going to be a good product. I guess I should have said that. I went out to my shop and I got one, and I had to show everybody on the team because they didn't know what Kickin' Coolers was. I politicked with our buyer hard to get Turtle Box in the building. When she has us, open to buy, and she can't spend any more than that. It's just, it's given to her by the retail consultant that we have. And so when I saw Turtle Box, I said, we have to have these in the store. She's like, Dustin, I don't have any open to buy. I can't spend any dollars on those things right now. I'm like, well, you don't have a choice because I want them in the store. And she's like, that's not happening. And this is the whole thing, you know? And I was like, okay. She told me no. And I'm like, well, I bought the first set, you know? And I'm like, I don't care what they're coming in the store. And it was a hit. But I remember when the Turtle Boxes arrived and they opened up one and they held it up and I went out there and I got mine. I'm like, see what I'm talking about? I was there. And so, yeah, I mean, it was bittersweet. I was like, man, you know, I look back and because Turtle Box has done it right. You know, they did it right. They evolved. They in timing. You know, I was right on storage. You know, with the timing of that, and you know, I did not know that. Yeah. But looking back now, I do. So yeah, with Turtle Box landed, it was funny because of how we got them in there. It was against our buyers, you know, wishes. And
somebody told you no.
Somebody told me no. Same thing with some Bahio sunglasses in our stores now. And, you know, there was another thing that, anyways, the no word, there's the trend right there.
You know, you talked about, you know, hitting the right timing with storage and all that. And I think, you know, there's a saying that says luck is where preparation meets opportunity. You know, and that's, again, it could be a cliche, or you could actually look at it and say there's a lot of truth there because, you know, somebody might say, well, you hit luck on the timing, but nobody sees everything, the preparation that was leading up to that. Right. And the willingness to take risk. You didn't have the money to buy the 6 acres, but you said, I'm buying the 6 acres.
Exactly.
You know, so each step of the way you were preparing, but then the timing just happened to line up. So it's not that every business is going to be, you know, we're only talking about the ones that worked many times. You know, if you look online, it's the ones that worked, but nobody's talking about the tens of businesses that tried and failed or that got started and then, you know, fell off.
Never really made it. Yeah.
And we also don't talk about the years because that's the other thing that's missing. When I'm looking at agencies that are bigger than us, doing better work than us, getting bigger projects than us, I look at that and I'm like, oh, and then I'm like, wait a second, let me see. Oh, they started in 2010. Wow. Okay. Yeah. You know, so you have to understand the investment because again, today, everything with social media, it's all right now. We're like, wow, they built this yesterday. Yeah. So the time investment in a lot of these businesses. So just to give some perspective to some folks, walk through some timeline of some of your businesses, when they started, how old they are.
Well, and think about it. I'm 27 years into this. I think that's the right math. Starting at 14 and I'm 41. So 27 years to get to where I'm at now, like 27 years of hard work and that relentless effort. But timelines, I mean, storage is now, 12 years old, or 13 years old. Retail is now, the Outfitters is 9 years old. We're just at, 3 stores. Detailing is 10 or 11 years old. And so 11 years to kind of climb to where we're at. So these are time spans. It didn't happen overnight. The problem is people that drive past the property every day and they see it go from something to from nothing to something, right? And it looks like that. And it looks like I'll never forget someone came by and they're like, man, this was a great idea. It's like you just filled it up. And I remember thinking when I bought that 6 acres and I had to put 150 storage customers there and I had like 30. I remember, and I bought it in the spring, and summer's when everybody uses their stuff and they don't store their stuff. So I had to sweat out 5, 6, 7 months of this, this new purchase. And let me tell you something, that's a stress before people really needed to store their stuff again. Yep. Once they get in there, they keep it year round. But that initial wave had to come after summer when people were done using their stuff. Yeah. And so, the time, it's not overnight. Even these ones that just pop up and seem like that, there are years in the makings to get something to where you can, where even the infrastructure is there to support successful business, the teams and all of the learning that you do over time, it takes a long time. Yeah.
The storage started with a half acre of dirt.
Half acre of dirt, yeah.
And all these years later, these investments later, these decisions later gets it to where it is. So when we're so many times we give up after a few months.
Mm-hmm.
We run out of money, we run out of ideas, we run out of drive. And I think that's what kills most people is they hit their first setback and maybe they make it through one or two setbacks, but it's ultimately the first few setbacks and they just stop.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not until the 5, the 10, the 15 years. A friend of mine was on here a little while back. 37 years was his path. And we broke down everything that happened in those 37 years because people look at his life and say, must be nice.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure you get that.
Yes.
Oh, must be nice.
Yes.
But they don't see the 27 years.
Right. They don't. They don't. And it takes all of those, it's not, I mean, and you know what it is, like things that come to you quickly are rarely respected or appreciated. And when you build something and you fight the fight, you're going to hold on to it. You mentioned people kind of come into these, adventures. I was on the phone with someone the other day about this new brand that they had started. And they're like, we want to get in your stores and we want to be in all the stores. And I say, okay, cool. I said, how long have you been doing this? Well, we're 3 months in, but we do have a website. And I'm like, okay, you got there's a lot to learn. There's a lot of, you're doing the right thing by calling on me to get at my stores, but you can't stock out my stores with these stuff. That's not going to happen. So you start with a rack, and then you grow into it. And people just assume that just because you put an open sign on a door that people just come running in there, and you're competing with people that have been doing it for years and years and years. And there's a lot of sweat equity there. There's a lot of things that people don't understand that you just have to go through.
Yeah. What are some of the things that have helped you along the way? So if you can say just anything that's kind of guided you, given you inspiration, direction.
All right. So my dad always says, if it was easy, everyone would do it. I probably lean on that way more than I should. Yeah. That is, it's almost like painful to hear when he says it now too. Like, it's like, yeah, I know, Dad, I know, but I'm calling to cry on your shoulder right now. I'm trying to hear.
Don't give me a pep talk.
No, yeah. I don't need that. If it was easy, everybody would do it, Spill. Okay. I really don't need that. He works with us, by the way. And he's worked with me for the last 10 years and is amazing. That piece of advice is probably reigned the most true in my life. If it was easy, everybody would do it. And there's also another video that Eric Thomas did on YouTube, and it's he's explaining, his business owner and this mentor, and the mentor is explaining to the business owner about how hard business can be, and he takes him over to the beach and puts him in the water, and he's got his water up to here, and he pulls his head underwater and puts him up. He's like, hey, what was that? He's like, does it again. And the moral of the story was, it's like, you got to want it worse than you want to breathe. And this is what ownership can feel like. And so those things, knowing that is normal, has what kept me going. Knowing that other people fight these same battles is what keeps me going. There's been some wins. I mean, we've sat here and talked a lot about the hard. There's been a lot of success. There's been a lot of times where, those proud moments. We won Detail Shop of the Year, international, like for the International Detailers Association. We received that reward in 25, I think. And I was, down on stage in Orlando with my detailing team in front of a huge group and accepted that award. Our nappy local awards, we always take a lot of pride in that. I know some people laugh at it, but we take a lot of pride in it. Cool. We're 6 years strong. There's a lot of success. The team wins, the families that are thriving now and all. And those are the things that keep me going. The next location, the next store, the next set of problems. My mom's pep talks, my marriage, there's a lot that just, that you find your peace in and you keep going. But I do think that if it was easy, everybody'd do it. It's probably the one thing that you fall hard on and bounce back from.
And I think we take every win and that's like wind in the sail to get to the next one.
Absolutely.
So if you look at the 27 years, I know there's probably a lot. It may be hard to distill it down to one, but is there one moment, this crowning moment in the 27 years that you hold on to as saying, this is one of my proudest moments?
I don't feel like I've got there yet. Like there's been a lot of wind in the sail, a lot. There's been a lot of moments that I've stood in front of a lot of crowds and felt, this is special. I am the MC for the International Detailers Association Gala that they do every year. I've done it for the last 4 years, and standing in front of that group of people, that echelon of people, and it's like, those are proud moments. I don't know that there's I've had that moment of, I tell you what, I stood at the tip of the battleship in 2000 and when was COVID? 2021, maybe 2020. We have a boat show out there. Okay. This was probably one of the singular moments. And all the boat shows had canceled. All the indoor boat shows had canceled that year. And in January, by the way, they were supposed to start in February. In January, we got the notice through an email that they were canceling. And now we were a big participant in the boat shows because we had our detailing services and our outfitter stores that we would go set up. And when I got the notice, I looked at it. We just got back from Christmas break. And so I said, we're having a boat show. Just like that, okay? And so I called Madison, marketing director. I said, hey, are you sitting down? And she's got the flu at home. And she's like, yes, I'm dying, Dustin, what? And I said, well, you need to be prepared because we're going to have a boat show this year. And she's like, what are you talking about? I said, well, the indoor show's canceled and we're going to build our show. We're going to do a show. And so you fast forward through about 60 days worth of a crash course on how to build a boat show. And you wake up and here you are at your own boat show at Battleship Park. I've rented the whole property. And I go up to the front of the battleship and I look down on our team and everything, the buzz going on. And there's hundreds of boats there and there's thousands of cars there. And, our team's running around and radios are going off like you're crazy, And I stood up there and I'm like, I get chills thinking about it right now. Wow, we did this. We built this. This is cool. I don't think I realized it then, and I probably just realized it now. That's probably one of those moments that I was most proud of. Some of the things that we've done was that moment, because that was such a hard task and a big task and something way out of our league and our comfort zone. And we didn't have a team or staff. We divided up the departments by, people within that staff. I said, okay, you're a detailer, but you're going to be over parking, and, you're a retail girl, but you're going to be over the stage entertainment. And, just like, what? We were in a meeting. We were going to do, this is funny. You'll like this. We were going to do cabanas, VIP cabanas around the stage. And so I have one of our retail girls, and so we're assigning tasks, and you're going to do this, and you're going to do this. You may remember this, Chris. And I said, I'll mention her name, Tatum. You're going to be over at cabanas. And she's like, what's a cabana? That's where we're at. Okay. Yeah. This is how real it was. Anyways, we divide up all these tasks that no one's done, and we go solve this big problem. And we're standing there, and it's just like, take it all in. And that was a cool moment. That was a cool moment to see a bunch of detailers and t-shirt salesmen or women, out there running a boat show. And now we're going into our 7th year. And there's been conversations whether boat show lives on. I mean, that's one that's on the,
sure.
That's up for debate. So it would, shockingly enough, boat shows aren't the most profitable thing in the world. It's a lot of pride built in there, but not a lot of profit. Yeah. And but it's fun. And so that's one of those moments for sure.
Another instance of being told no leads to you saying, we're going to do it anyways.
I don't think I knew this trend was as strong as it is.
I'm seeing a trend in your life.
Yeah.
So that's great.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah. What would you say to that entrepreneur, that business owner that maybe they haven't seen enough of the wind in their sails? They are kind of in that place of, they know they can't give up. They don't have a backup plan, but they just don't know what to do next. What would you tell somebody that's in that spot?
Yeah, if you're in the hard spot right now, I mean, just keep going. And that's so cliche, right? One foot in front of the other, just keep going. But that's what you have to do. You don't have the answers, and you're not going to have the answers. Every single day is going to present opportunity in front of you. One thing that I want to tell you, and this is business advice, and I don't know that you were asking for this specifically, but I want to tell it anyway. If you're struggling with sales, and I think that a lot of people are struggling with sales right now because of economic factors, right? Things have shifted around a little bit. It kind of got a little tough to make sales. We should spend more time on our existing customer base than we do trying to get new customers. It's not glamorous. It's not the new coolest Google ad, Facebook ad, Meta, whatever. Okay. But what people forget about is the people that gave them money in the past. Everybody wants to dump money into the future. Nobody wants to dump money into the past. And if you're struggling with business right now, if you'll turn around and start calling your previous customers and getting them back in the door, it's a quicker sell. It's a cheaper sell. It's a faster sales cycle, and it gets business back. I mean, it gets money back in the door faster. Everybody wants to talk about the new contract, the new customer, the new whatever. Nobody wants to talk about getting Miss Smith back in the door and get Miss Smith's friends back in the door with her. And I think that that's probably the missing link that nobody talks about because it's just not glamorous. How am I going to spend money into a retention campaign versus new ads and new content and all that stuff? So if you're there struggling and you're selling anything as a business, service, or product or whatever, take a look at your customer base. Try to get them back in the door. And that's done through text, email, phone calls, however you see fit. But there's processes that you can put in place, referral programs, loyalty programs that you can do that really won't bring people back to the thing. So that's the business advice of it. And, I get annoyed as anybody else, of the pep talks and the motivational speech and the you can do it and the just keep going. But the reality is you're not going to have the answer. You're not going to think your way out of it. You're going to do your way out of it and, take action. Stop thinking. I'm a thinker. Stop thinking and start doing. I always tell somebody, if you come to me with an idea, what are the next 3 things you're going to do to implement it? I don't want to hear the idea. I want to know what you're going to do to make it happen, because that's what really matters. So not think about the financial problem. Don't think about the credit card debt. Don't think about the loan you can't pay. Don't think about what can I physically do today, physically. What phone call can I make? What door can I knock on? What person can I talk to? What hand can I shake? What lunch can I go to meet somebody that will change my future? And that's where it's at.